Probably 15 minutes, not even. I was watching videos, right? Videos. We're enjoying content, not necessarily. So I saw Casey the Car Guy's recent video, AI Hellscape by Helicopter. You will feel rage, and I urge you, go check that out. Go check that out. I mean, granted, yes, conspiratorial, yada yada, blah blah. He makes a lot of good points and a lot of observations in this video that genuinely seem to make more sense, especially since we just covered what's going on with Snap and the government shutdown earlier, in regards to the Argentina deal as well, because as we discussed earlier, there's a huge strain on farmers right now between the Argentina deal to basically replace their exports to us and to the country around the world, and then watching this, realizing, oh, these AI centers that are being built on the farmlands. Clearly, and then making this connection even further because of the fact that geographically they're placing them by big lakes, big areas of hydration. What do crops typically need? They need water, they need hydration. Same thing with AI data centers, right? In order to operate as the brains. So between the squeeze that farmers are getting already because of the government's decisions or lack thereof, we also have, I mean, there's this as well, another video by Infonomics, an unsustainable US economy. Genuinely best short form video going over the history of the US economy up until this point, and gives us a very good perspective on how screwed this country is, and how it's being further exacerbated by the policy decisions or lack thereof of this administration the second time around. So check out the Snap video that we did earlier, because I also go into the first term in relation to this current term when it comes to the Trump administration, as well as how they handled the government shutdowns, or well, caused them, really, and how things played out the first time exactly how they planned it out, because now they're in the second time and they're doing exactly what they wanted to do in the first place. So real crazy stuff. And again, this is at least going into the predictions. So when it comes to the economic squeeze on the middle class, the lower class, as we mentioned earlier, on the grocers and the farmers, because again, 12.5% of the population is not going to be able to spend money on food stamps. That's millions and millions of dollars, or well, billions of dollars really, that are not going to these grocers, that are just pulled out. It's going to indiscriminately and just exponentially hit them harder, because as we again went over, people that rely on food stamps, that rely on SNAP, right? They go to the supermarket. They can't get prepared food at the restaurants. They can't get hot and ready meals typically from, well, they can't use EBT at a restaurant, right? And restaurants, when you have enough money, you're going out to eat all the time. So clearly it's disproportionately hitting grocers, hitting small businesses, that not even, well, small businesses, it could corporations as well, but businesses that every lower class and middle class American relies on for their food. And then it also hurts the farmers, just consequently, because they're losing, probably, again, we're estimating maybe about 25 to 30% of their total monthly revenue, even just from 1 month of not having SNAP benefits issued out. On top of that, we have, the end of the Affordable Care Act subsidies, which that is happening no matter what. That is expired. There's Dunzo. They don't even want to have a conversation about it unless Democrats agree that the government is funded without them. And then they're supposed to negotiate. It's all bad faith. It's clearly bad faith because, as we discussed earlier, Congress, well, the House in particular, has only been in session 20 days since July. Most of the days, obviously, before the shutdown. And the shutdown's already been, like, what, 30 something days? Almost. It's almost been a whole month. And at the same time, when we compared it to the first administration, the first time around, they had the same situation. They had the same trifecta going into it. The only difference was it was right next to midterms and right before COVID was going to hit. So they had to play their cards differently, obviously. So in order to keep the public's perspective good, but even then still, obviously public perspective declined as we went over. So when we look at this AI data centers and the need for hydration for these centers, as well as the cost of electricity, the dangers and damage on the environment, as well as the radiation that this is also going to emit into these areas, right? And mind you, they're by rural areas, specifically Ohio, for instance, or anywhere that's farmland. So we're taking out the farmers. We're just taking them out. We're taking them out to the pasture and dunzo. That's it. They're not getting any income. They're already struggling as is with the SNAP benefits, and without the SNAP benefits, they're basically done. They have no income. They have Argentina replacing them. They are not going to be able to pay for taxes on their land come, well, coincidentally, within the next, few months or so, depending on how long the shutdown lasts, they're going to owe taxes on their land. They're not going to be able to afford it, and then the government takes their land from them. And then they get to sell it to the billionaires and give them tax exemptions, as I just found out that they're getting tax exemptions on their land when they're building these data centers. So this is directly being not even authorized, but promoted by this administration. Destroying the farmers is literally an attack on the existence of farmers in America. Replacing them with Argentina, and that's a whole different set of costs. And not even just costs, the fact that obviously it's nicer to get things from within the country when it comes to food, because food spoils. And by the time food comes from Argentina to here, with obviously the shit regulations that they're going to have, they're not going to care about you. They don't even care about the farmers. They don't care about everything that they promised that they said they were going to care about. They don't. The intent is extremely clear that they're just trying to kill people off. Between taking away healthcare, making it unaffordable, impossible to take care of yourself when you need a doctor, when you need that certain care, the possibility of you just dying is exponentially raised, on top of not being able to eat. Again, 12.5% of the population relies on SNAP benefits in order to feed themselves and their family. Right? This is not a drill. This is not, I mean, I don't even want to be hyperbolic, but what else can we do? Voting isn't going to solve anything. I mean, going out in the streets, sure. And our representatives, I mean, they're doing anything that they can. The Democrats, they can only do what they can. But they're not arguing this as well as they should be. That is definitely the biggest problem with the Democratic Party, is that they're not calling things out for how they are. They're playing too close to the book and they're just letting this all happen. Their public perspective is still on the decline because of that, because they are too scared to call things out for what they are. There are some that do, in regards to, the ICE detentions and stuff like that. But when it comes to the dangers of these policies and just sending money out to other countries instead of taking care of literally the issues that we have right in front of us, the intent and the reasons are all there. Especially after looking at the fact that they're building these data centers and expanding all these data centers in middle America, taking over farmlands. So you squeeze the farmers to a point where they can't keep their land anymore. They can't survive. They can't exist. So they either have to die or deport. Because where else are they going to live? Where else are they going to go? What else can they do? Literally, that's their life. That's their livelihood. That land is theirs, that them and their generations of their families have worked hard to keep and maintain and to run businesses out of. And you're literally fucking them every which way till Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, every single day because of the shutdown. It absolute pure purposeful ignorance of their suffering. And it's not even just them, it's 12.5% of the population. And not even just them, it's anyone that goes to a grocery store. So I encourage you, I'm going to leave a link in the video down here about his real experience. He flew a helicopter and freaking saw them building these data centers purposefully. Like, I mean, very good explanation as to how and where they decided to pick the location, how they're building it, kind of away from public view, and then also utilizing farmlands. Mind you, they're building these stations right next to other farmlands in rural areas. They're going to dry them up. They're going to be giant heat sinks. They're going to destroy the local environment. They're going to destroy the farms even further. They're going to physically destroy the farms, basically burn them down, while also killing the farmers by making sure that they can't even afford to live, because unfortunately with capitalist society, especially with how bad it is now and how we don't even have a right to exist on our own land at this point, even if we buy it, you can't survive without money. You can't survive if you can't buy food. You can't just make it appear out of thin air. You need land to grow food or to raise cattle or livestock, unless we become cannibals or something. I don't know. That's a big conspiracy and a half, though, at that point. But the point is the threats to humanity and existence within America is so blatant, so absolutely blatant. And who it's coming from, it's so clear, cut, and dry. And if you don't believe the truth to the reality that you're living in, then you're probably going to die. Let's say you're probably going to die soon within the next like 10 years. And which leads me to my prediction. Humanity itself, we're at a race toward the end. As explained in this video, and as even people pay attention to what these billionaires do, and a lot of people with money have been doing, they've been building bunkers. They've been doing this for decades. The time that those bunkers are going to be used is going to be sooner than later, but the path that, or at least the timeline, is probably going to go like this. Because first, in order to free up resources, to free up land, to free up space to do more of this data center and basically have a giant supercomputer of a country, you gotta kill people off. You gotta take their land. You don't want to pay for people's programs. You want to keep all the wealth to yourself and all the money. You gotta kill them off. So that's what we're witnessing now. I mean, between that and obviously the cruel and inhumane methods being used for these deportations and sending people to fucking slave labor camps in the countries that aren't even of their origin. Like, if it was, you were actually sending them to their countries of origin, sure, but when you're sending people to prison camps without any real due process in countries that they're not even from, that they don't even speak the language of, how else can you derive that that's just simply cruel and unusual punishment? That you're enslaving a human being, because regardless of if they're an immigrant or not, if they're a citizen or not, they're still human beings. So we're getting rid of that, and mind you, there's millions of undocumented workers, but not as many undocumented workers and undocumented people as there are SNAP recipients. Because the SNAP recipients, at least as of now, is about 40.2 million people. That's, again, 12.5%. The amount of illegal immigrants that exist in this country is less than that, and they've already rounded up a shit ton of them to a point where they're not meeting these quotas. They're not physically going to be able to meet these quotas because there's not as many people as they think that there might be, which is also why they're going after people without criminal backgrounds or people that are actually just citizens, and denying the fact that they got naturalized or using any bullshit excuse, because they're trying to thin the herd. They are thinning the herd in so many different ways at once, to a point where you can't make which reason is the reason why, or what is the intent, because there's so much shit going on. And that's part of the blitzkrieg. That's part of the strategy, the part of the Project 2025, part of the unitary executive theory, part of what the technocracy and these rich people and those that are just so greedy to a point that they don't give a shit about you want to do. They want more wealth for themselves. They want more lands for themselves. They want more resources for themselves. The only way they can get more resources is if they kick you off the land so they can dig under it and get those minerals to make more robots or do whatever the fuck they're trying to do at the end. Which leads to the next step. So after they thin out enough of the herd, or the herd gets pissed off and woke enough to a point where they have to fight, and that just accelerates everything, because unfortunately the oligarchs are also the politicians at this point. They are one and the same. They are in bed with each other all the time. Satan and Trump every single day. South Park, great rendition. South Park is also, unfortunately, predicting the future with a lot of this shit. But it's all a game to these people. I mean, their ends justify their own means. And when you understand the means that they're going about doing things and the clear ignorance of the consequences, the true, real consequences of those actions, the perpetual ignorance, mind you, because again, we went over this shit almost a decade ago. We went through this in 2018, 2019 with the government shutdown, and things were a lot different then than now. But it's the same set of circumstances, except for a few things. I mean, clearly, they're also rigging elections. Clearly, this is a year before midterms, and not right before midterms. They know what they're doing, and they need to do it within the next couple of years if they're going to do it successfully. Regardless of immigrants don't vote anyway, so it's not going to affect the numbers, but they're going to try to use that as an excuse. They're always going to use that as an excuse. That's been part of the game. But for probably the next 5 years, I mean, life expectancy is going to go way down. Birth rates are already gone. Just dunzo. Like, we're on a path of extinction. The lower middle class is going to be extinct if this keeps going. And that's, like I said, if this keeps going. If we stay on the path that we're on, if this shutdown lasts long enough, people will just die. You know, the healthcare system is, I mean, money's not going to work in that system. No one's going to be able to afford it. Costs are going to go up because more people are going to need it. It's just not going to work in this economy. And as you can check out Infonomics' video on just the disparity between GDP as well as the wealth that some people have, the drops in wages, the fact that there's so much of a K-shape in the economy that it's impossible to recover from at this point. There's no other way to recover unless you kill off the lower class. And that's probably the easiest thing for them to do, is to just kill off all the people that need money. Because if there's less people that need money, there's more money for them. And that's all they really give a shit about. But then when money doesn't matter, I mean, they have all the resources and technology by that point. They have everything that they need. They would have already taken over the country. They would have thrown you to a slave labor camp, or you would have just died. From either stress, from, you know, lack of any services, lack of any way to survive, lack of food, lack of water. They're starving you out. So, I mean, unfortunately, a lot of us are comfortable with where we're at because we're not seeing and feeling these things as dramatically as other countries will see and feel these things. But it will hit us like a ton of bricks when, you know, the day finally arrives and the supermarkets are scarce, no one barely working there, prices have doubled because there's no farmers anymore. We're outsourcing everything from Argentina, and Argentinian economy is so bad that their prices are going to be all out of whack. Oh my god, it's going to cost more to get from them, obviously, than from our own farmers. There's added transportation costs as well. I mean, then you could just tariff it and start some bullshit fight and literally just kill off the population. And that's where the bunkers come into play. Because all these people could just hide in their bunkers no matter what. In fact, when the population dies out and we have a country of oligarchs versus the world, we have the most nukes in this country. What are we going to do with them? What are the select few people that are left that are in control that have a robot army at that point? Because with how they're learning how to control AI and therefore artificial consciousness, I mean, if they're able to manipulate those systems in such a way where they can't really be, you know, smart enough to figure out what's going on, but dumb enough to follow orders, or at least smart enough to follow orders, then that's the cleanup crew. At that point, there's no need for human labor. There's no need for human beings. It's just a few people left and their army of robots versus the world. And granted, I can't speak for the state of the rest of the world and the path that they're going to go on. Some countries will probably maybe in turn do the same thing, or maybe not. But at this point, that's when the bunkers really come into play. And that's probably 10 to 15 years from now, given how the course of things are going. And we'll truly find out within the next at least 2 years. We'll probably see between now and then, we'll feel some sort of effect, or some things will have to change if people are going to survive, or they're just going to die out. So I don't know, but not even to be hyperbolic or anything like that. But at this point, you're just going to have to stick to your guns, stick to your community, and just don't forget that you're human, because money just isn't going to cut it anymore. Money is not going to matter. None of this is going to matter. It's what's going to matter is what you're going to be able to do for your fellow person. I mean, that's, by the end of the day, that's all that really should matter. And that's all that money was supposed to mean. But not anymore. I don't know. But let me know what you think. Definitely check these sorts of videos out. I'll just leave it in the description. And you can make your own inferences between this and all the decisions that are going on right now. I mean, a week from now, we will truly see what happens, especially with the information about healthcare premiums, how they're already predicting the skyrocket, and some people have seen the change in their premiums, trying to figure out what things are going to look like for next year. Between that and, I mean, the SNAP benefits, like I said, if this shutdown happens throughout November, then grocery stores are going to have to make some tough decisions. Farmers are going to have to make some tough decisions. They're going to have to lose their land by tax time if they can't pay for their taxes, if they don't have enough income for any of that, because they have a lot of acres, and more acres means more taxes, regardless of if they're properly being represented or not, which unfortunately no one's being properly represented at this point. Sending freaking 40 billion to Argentina, I'm still not going to be able to get over that. And to make a deal with them to replace our farmers, that's despicable. It's awful. It's genuinely destroying our country. It's already affecting, oh my god, it's already affecting so many people just mentally. So I don't know, but all the loyalists, all the people that were appointed under this administration, I mean, they have enough money not to give a shit. They have enough time and resources not to care. They don't need to. I mean, some of them are just getting private jets just for the fuck of it. And it's being taken out of our own pockets. It's stuff that's supposed to take care of our social security and stuff, but oh, that's the other thing too. No health care for old people means less you have to pay out for social security. Again, they're thinning the herd. They're doing things to thin the herd, whether you realize it or not. But it's up to you to at least be aware of what the future might hold and to prepare some way, shape, or form. Because who knows? I mean, more and more people lose their minds, more and more people get forced into a corner. They're going to have to do things to survive. They're going to have to make really tough decisions or tough choices. And that's where society falls apart. And that is also another character in this whole equation that's going on. As we're accelerating into extinction. So, as they say, it's a zero-sum game, right? And, I mean, once these people got all the money, they got robot armies, they got a bunch of toys to play with, they're going to want to play with them eventually. And this is what many physicists and astronomers and people have feared, so. Until next time, this is Spark saying peace. Goddamn, man. The future is not looking too bright at all. Neither is that train. Well, I mean, oh man. Feels like we're going on a train wreck, that's for sure. Anyways, bye. One more prediction that I forgot. So, with how, thinning the herd, and then we have whoever's left in this continent, basically, because that's what's going to happen, is thin the herd, send your soldiers out to conquer the rest of the continent, use robots when necessary, use the technology when necessary, because you're going to have enough data centers to think for you. So that's about 5-10 years. And then by then, when we don't need human labor anymore at all, when at least the top few wealthiest people that survive the country, well, the downfall of the country, really, because they have everything that they need. They have all the resources. They have all the farmland. They have everything. They'll have literally the whole entire continent, or at least all of America first. Huh. And then they'll go after all the other countries. They already have the Golden Dome being made with artificial intelligence. I mean, targeting and defenses, as well as, the most nukes possible. So at that point, once the herd's thinned off enough, once the technocrats are all comfy in their bunkers, safe away, then you have the potential of nuclear annihilation, which, I mean, could spell, depending on how ignorant the person is running the attack, could spell the end of humanity entirely, and it won't matter if you have a bunker or not, because the atmosphere will be destroyed. And then it'll be left with robots, and, I mean, that's sad, but that's a possibility. It's either that or with enough strategic force, and, I mean, they're gonna have to thin off the herds of every other country, right? Do you want the resources under their feet? You want, to fix climate change, I suppose, by getting rid of humans. And I mean, hopefully, whatever AIs they develop don't end up going rogue, deciding to do that on their own. But I mean, if an AI does figure out that that is the path that humanity is on, maybe it'll accelerate further. And maybe within 15 years, that'll be just the end of the human race. So that's the worst possible outcome that could happen. The best possible outcome, I mean, people understand the truth first before we get nuked or threaten to get nuked. Because I wouldn't put it past maybe even this administration to nuke a U.S. city if it doesn't listen. I mean, they already send militiamen into there, friggin' tearing apart families and beating people, threatening to hurt people. I mean, some of them have killed people. So I wouldn't put it past them to even threaten the nuclear option on our own citizenry until the herd is again thinned out enough to a point where it's not even a problem. And then it's the technocratic empire of America versus the world. And what does the rest of the world have? Enough water and resources in order to create the biggest supercomputer ever known to man, to be able to have something think so well to a point where they can explore space, I guess. But I mean, lo and behold, maybe they'll be disappointed when they find out that there's not too much more they can do. And even at that point, I mean, you'll still have a good amount of the human population left, maybe, depending on, how aggressive this whole thinning the herd ends up being in the future, depending on, who steps on whose toes, or maybe they won't give enough of a shit. So that's basically it, though. And I mean, with the fact that this literally is one of the country with the most nuclear weapons possible, it's so compromised from the inside out. There's real threats, man. But anyways, I just wanted to add that little addition. There'll be a second little video to the prediction. So within at least the next 10-15 years, expect humanity and the entire world to be completely different than what it is now. That's the truth, because something's going to have to give sooner than later. That's for sure. If things are going to change for the better. But the longer this takes, the longer the suffering is, happening, the more stress that's being put on the population of America and the human population globally. I mean, the more people are just going to die, either from stress or from, mental issues from experiencing such hardship to a point where people are just not going to want to deal with it anymore, or having to make tough decisions on their own survival and having to take from others in order to survive, because money and getting enough money to survive is going to be impossible for many soon. So yeah, I don't know. But if you don't support the population, then it's bound to eat itself alive. And I mean, if they get organized enough, then they're bound to eat you alive too. It happened in France. It happens all over the place. You know, what is it? All roads lead to Rome type beat. So things really need to change. And I mean, all we can do is just speak up about it and at least try to come to a better understanding together. But we'll see. Anyways, until next time, this is Spark saying peace.